This is just a quick video on how to cut an object out or silhouette it. There's a lot of different tools that'll do this in Photoshop. A lot of them, though, are very destructive in the sense that if once you do it, if for some reason you realize you made a mistake, there's no going back. You have to throw the picture away and start all over again. So this is probably one of the safest ways to do this. Open the object up in Photoshop, duplicate the layer by grabbing the name of the background layer and pulling it down onto the new layer icon so it duplicates it, just so that we don't make a mistake to the original. Go find the quick selection tool. It's in this grouping of tools that's 4 down. It might be hidden under the magic wand. All you have to do is just press on that caret to get to it. Now, any of the tools that use brushes in Photoshop are incredibly dependent on not only the size of the brush, which is indicated up here, like right now I'm at 125 pixels, and how hard the edge is. Whether the thing is set to be 0 hardness, which this icon would show to be very soft, or whether it's nearly 100%. If you're cutting out an object that has a very soft edge, you want to use a brush that is not completely hard. On the other hand, this guy looks like it's got a pretty firm edge, so I'm going to use a completely hard brush because I also know that I can always soften the edge afterwards, at least a little bit. Whereas if you use too soft of a brush to begin with and it was too fuzzy, it's nearly impossible to completely fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this completely hard brush. However, I think it's kind of small for right now. I'm using the close bracket key, 2 keys to the right of the letter P on the keyboard to make it a little bit larger. You should probably also note that the little symbol in the middle of this is a plus sign. I can do this one of 2 ways. I can either try to rub and grab him all in one big swoop. Cool. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect that. Or I could just come in here and keep with the plus symbol, clicking several times until I've added everything that I need. Both of them work. I'm going to hit Command plus to zoom in just at least a little bit. Command plus or minus to do that. And as I'm sitting here staring at this, I know that there's a problem with this picture and that I don't have included the toes of either of his shoes. Sometimes you can tell that easily, sometimes you can't. Once you've made your initial path or selection, the best thing to probably do is to tap the letter Q, which puts it temporarily into something called the quick mask mode. And that'll give you a really good indication that I did not get everything that I needed to down here. Hit the Q button again to get out of that. Make the brush smaller, because if I had a huge brush and I tried to click on the toe of his shoe here, it's also going to want to sample part of the background. And now I have a problem in that it's grabbed some of this area over in here. I could try to hold the Option button, and that changes the little plus symbol in the middle of the tool to a minus, and come back and try to get rid of that. And that oftentimes works. But I'm running into a few problems that that's not working as well as I thought. So I'm going to go back to my initial thing, hit Command D, reselect him, hit the Q. Yep, still got the same problem. I'm going to go ahead and make the brush much smaller so that it fits on the toe of the shoe. And with the plus symbol on it, I'm going to try to drag across the shoe to grab that and to grab over in here. And I'm going to hit the Q again just to see how good of a job I've done. I think it's pretty good overall. I can see that there's a few areas where it got confused, like on the edge of his jeans here. It's going to leave this little extra flap of fabric. Plus down here, I can tell that it didn't know exactly what to do down here on the bottom of his sole, nor did it know what to do over here on top of his shoe. So all you're really using the quick selection tool for is to do the initial quick run through. You're not necessarily assuming that it's going to be perfect. So if I leave this in the quick mask mode, I can come over here and get the paintbrush tool. And when I'm in the paintbrush tool, it's kind of located below the healing brush. You can just hover on it so you know that it's the tool you want. When I'm in this tool, I want to paint with either black or white. If I'm painting with black, and my brush is now way too big for my paintbrush, so I'm going to zoom way out. I'm hitting the open bracket key, which is right after the letter P on the keyboard. I also notice too, I've got a very soft brush. Well, if I use my initial selections very hard, any touch-up work also has to be done with a hard brush. So I'm going to come down in here, and if I paint with white, it's going to extend the mask. If I paint with black, it's going to take more of the mask and bring this thing on in. So I notice there's a little fleck at the toe of his shoe. It's probably never going to be noticeable. But I'm going to go switch till I have black paint here. I can use this little switch foreground background color to make sure the black's on top, and I can rub. You'll probably barely be able to see this on the monitor. So I'm going to encroach on the toe of his shoe a little bit, but you can tell that it's starting to kind of knock that off. The other thing I can tell now is if I'm zooming in and looking at this part of the shoe, I can see it didn't get all the background because at the end of the day, the kind of cream color on a Converse sole is the same color as this kind of background concrete in here. So with the paintbrush set to being white, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to very carefully try to rub white paint on top of this mask to fix that one area. I'm going to move on over here. Oops, it got all over the toe of his shoes here. So I'm going to do this to get rid of it there as well. It also didn't do a great job over here, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little editing right there. As long as I'm here, I'm going to notice a couple of other things. One, I have no idea what's going on with this flap on his jeans. It must just be some kind of freak thing. So I'm going to flip over and go get black paint. And I'm going to try to smooth that out just a little teeny bit by painting on top of that to get rid of some of that. I'm also going to get a really tiny brush, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try to fix this little hole right here. Then I'm going to move back on over. I'm just holding the space bar down to get the hand tool. Now I'm going to do one other thing. If I zoom back out, I'll even be able to see this. They've got this guy posed in such a weird position that it almost looks like his shoulder blade is popping out. It's got a big hump on the back here. And it doesn't look all that noticeable when I'm looking at it in the original picture, but as soon as I know I'm going to cut it out, any weird things like that flap of jeans is going to get magnified. So I'm going to zoom back in, and I'm going to go get the paintbrush tool, and with black, I'm going to choose to come in here, and my brush is a little bit bigger, and I'm going to just rub across the back of this shoulder blade so that I kind of smooth this area out so he no longer has that big weird bump. Again, where they just got imposed so weirdly that it looks like his shoulder blade has popped out. And maybe just to do one other thing, I'm going to realize that sometimes when we get people posed weird, the jean starts to look unnatural here. So I'm going to do the same thing too. I'm going to go ahead and kind of lessen some of these bumps a little bit on the back of his jeans, which I think might become a little bit distracting. And so once I've done that, I hit the Q. I've done my editing with my black and white paint, and I think it looks pretty good. At this point, what I do is I come back to the background copy, I move down here so that on the bottom row of this icons, and I'm going to look for this one, the white box with the black circle on it, and if I hover on it long enough, it's going to say Add Layer Mask. I'm going to click on that, and it adds this mask over here. And just to see how well I've done, I'm going to turn the eyeball off on the background layer. That's my guy. That's what he's going to look like if I save him out. So what I want to do, Photoshop displays all clear things on layers as these little gray and white checkerboards here. So if I turn this layer off with the eyeball, and I'm only showing what I want, this is all I need, I just go up to File and I pull down to Save As, and it's going to want to add the original JPEG is going to be changed to PSD, and the format will go to Photoshop because the JPEG cannot have more than one layer in it. The nice thing about what we've done here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Save, and I'm going to tell it to maximize compatibility, is if I ever needed to come back and realize that maybe these bumps on his jeans, or that maybe I didn't do a great job on his shoe, I can always come back and open this thing up. I already have the mask started, so I can continue to paint out certain things here. For example, I'll just make a really big change here. If I came back in and realized maybe I made a huge mistake, I could end up doing that. I could fix anything else that I wanted to. If I wanted to shave part of his butt off here, if I wanted to come in here and get rid of more of these bumps on his jeans on this leg, I have the ability to continue to edit this file and come back to it. Whereas if I'd used one of the other destructive forms, once the pixels were cut, the pixels were cut. But once I have this mask here, I've never really hurt the picture because I can see the entire thing right here. So that's one way how to be able to cut an object out in Photoshop.